Welcome back. Well, politics is one thing, business is another. Well, it seems that there are still many things to work out for a China-U.S. trade deal to actually materialize. One of China's most prestigious brands, Alibaba, has announced that it will deepen its partnership with U.S. companies. The latter will now be allowed to sell on Alibaba.com. That's Alibaba's business-to-business platform. The company itself hosts the largest e-commerce platform in China, and according to McKinsey, China is now the world's leading e-commerce country with an annual e-commerce transaction value surpassing that of the United States, the United Kingdom, Japan, Germany, and France combined. So how significant is this move by Alibaba to allow U.S. businesses to sell on its B2B platform? And is Alibaba now in stronger global competition with Amazon? More broadly, while simmering tensions between Beijing and Washington also fuel public resentment on both sides, what does Alibaba's move illustrate about relations between Chinese and U.S. businesses today? So, joining me to talk about this in Beijing are Thomas Luo, co-founder and CEO of PingWest, which tracks tech news, as well as Harvey Dzodin, a senior fellow at the Center for China and Globalization. So, gentlemen, thank you for coming onto the program. Thomas, I want to begin with you. Give us a sense first of how significant this move could be for U.S. small businesses.
Okay, I think it's a very significant point for the U.S. small business because, you know, now and it just enabled the U.S. small business the accessibility to approach the very huge, probably the buyers from China. So I think this is a very significant point for that. And I think but for Alibaba, I think it's just one step for them because in this year and for Alibaba itself, for their B2B business, and it's the beginning of this year, and they're just starting their global approach. Later in the first half in the approach, they're just alongside the One Belt, One Road, just like the Silk Road in Turkey, in Italy, in Russia, and probably in Spain. But now, and just they move to another side of the world and just to try to approach their B2B market in the U.S.
Okay, Harvey, what do you think? This overall move by Alibaba allowing U.S. businesses to sell on Alibaba.com?
I think it's a huge thing. I think it has political and economic repercussions. I believe that it's going to help the American SMEs immensely, because it's not just a small business that's signing up to have its products on a B2B platform. It's a full service environment that helps these SMEs. I mean, most of them are not even digital. Only 30% of them are digital. What Alibaba is also providing is all kinds of services in terms of marketing and doing the best that the companies can do to go global, including hooking them up with retired American executives who have experience in these areas.
Now, how big of a deal do you think, Harvey, is this potentially for rural America, or perhaps some of the smaller cities in the country that could be more revitalized, I would say? Having a platform like this should be an interesting opportunity for them.
I think it's great because e-commerce doesn't depend on geography. So if you're somewhere in the middle of Iowa, or if you're in some small town in America, you have an equal chance of participating in the worldwide market. And let's face it, this is a market of $23.9 trillion with a T dollars. So I think that it's a boon for anybody, anywhere, to get their goods and services to market all around the world.
Yeah, that $23.9 trillion, that was cited by the U.S. International Trade Commission back in 2016. So that number could have grown, Thomas. In terms of this huge market, Alibaba's revenues from this market is still just a tiny sliver of the company's overall revenue. So there is going to be huge potential here for Alibaba. I mean, in terms of this opportunity, this should be tremendous for China's leading e-commerce company.
Yeah, this should be tremendous for the Chinese leading e-commerce company because, I think just everybody should just pay attention to the the B2B market in China for the China e-commerce companies now is still an unpolished gem for them. It's unpolished gold mine for them. Yeah, because now we have to say China is the leading e-commerce company in the world in terms of the B2C or the C2C space, but not really at the B2B space.
But nobody is, right? I mean, this is a huge untapped market for all
yeah,
tech
sure.
giants around the world.
Yeah, sure. But now just like most of the Chinese leading e-commerce companies, including all the first-tier internet companies, are approaching the global market. Obviously, in U.S. is a very important step for them. And meanwhile, another side probably be the Southeast Asia or be the One Belt One Road.
And this move means what for competition between Alibaba and Amazon?
Well, this is a great question. I think it's Alibaba. This year, I think just Amazon has a really aggressive plan on the B2B market. In the worldwide, they try to probably just achieve the probably 20 billion U.S. market sales in worldwide for in the coming years for the B2B market. So I think when Alibaba tried to approach the U.S. market, then they have to face the really tough competition with the U.S., not in China market, but in the U.S. market over there. And I think one of the advantage for Alibaba is the very huge potential behind them was the potential Chinese buyers. I mean, the U.S. sellers, and probably they're in Iowa or they're in the middle of the U.S. But meanwhile, the same in the most potential Chinese buyers are from the Middle East provinces, or not in the Beijing, Shanghai, or Shenzhen or Guangzhou, probably in the middle of China, and they still have some kind of the companies, the state-owned companies or the private companies, and they have the very strong need to buy the goods.
Yeah, Harvey, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, Amazon has been a failure in China. It's pulled the plug basically on all of its services in China about 10 days ago. They did a terrible job in terms of their cloud computing business. They did a terrible job of their sales. They're just one of many American companies, arrogant American companies that thought they could conquer China and did not do so. So I think Alibaba is well positioned, and I'm really impressed with the work that Alibaba's done to get this program off the ground. Because of all the paranoia in Washington, their executives even went to Washington to explain this program to top government officials to make sure that there was a high comfort level. All the support that they're supplying for these SMEs, I think, is going to be money in the bank for the SMEs and for Alibaba.
And you know, we hear from the most critical hawks of China-U.S. policy over in Washington that we want to see decoupling of the United States from China, disengagement between the world's two largest economies. That is impossible from an economic standpoint. I mean, this move almost seems like this is going completely opposite of the decoupling that is what we're hearing from the hawks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jack Ma said about 2 years ago that trade should not be a weapon in a war, that it should be a propeller for peace. And I believe that he's putting into action that saying right now. And so I believe this is going to be a win-win for everybody involved. And President Trump is going to actually love this because it's going to make the balance of payments between China and the U.S. more favorable. And he hates Jeff Bezos. So anything that will put Amazon down is a plus for Trump.
Okay, I want to get back to the business model real quick and do a little quick comparison between the two, Thomas, because Alibaba, of course, does not sell its own inventory. For this new move to get U.S. businesses to sell on Alibaba.com, it plans to charge a flat fee compared to Amazon, which charges a monthly fee as well as a commission for each transaction involved. It almost seems like Alibaba is going for scale here in terms of one-time flat fee compared to Amazon. So which business model do you think will win out eventually in the long term? I mean, $23.9 trillion up for grabs here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'm not in a position to comment which one will make more sense. But let's just talk about the history. The history is just like how just Alibaba probably just like success in China probably 15 years ago, just in the B2C market, just like Taobao, and they just give the flat fee for all the sellers, the C level and the C sellers and the consumer sellers on the platform. Rather at that time, eBay just charge some kind of the fees on the platform. I think, and just at that time, and just I clearly remember, and the CEO of eBay in China, and at that time said, okay, and I don't think, and this is the flat fee model business, and it won't success in China. But now it's just Taobao and Alibaba just really conquer the market like that. But I think I'm not sure it won't really make sense in the B2B market. But I think for the small sellers and for the small merchants and SMEs, and I think they would love this kind of the free lunch at this really moment.
Harvey, I want to get your quick take on this because we're running out of time. There's something called Taobao villages here in China where these are smaller cities around the country where they see transaction volumes, e-commerce transaction volumes north of 10 million RMB. Will that model, do you think, transfer over to the United States?
I think it's too early to tell, but knowing the innovation of Taobao, I think they'll certainly try a few test markets around, and I think it could be successful.
Okay, we'll wait and see.
Yeah,
all right,
wait
many
and
thanks
see. Right, cool.
for your insights on this. Harvey Dzodin, Senior Fellow at the Center for China and Globalization, as well as Thomas Luo, the founder of PingWest. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all from this edition of The Point. As always, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter using the handle The Point with LX. You can also download the CGTN app to watch our show on your mobile devices or go to YouTube and look for CGTN The Point. Thanks for watching. You've got The Point. We'll see you again, same time tomorrow.